What is up, guys? Taiki with the not so humble health factor here, and today I'd like to discuss my recent moves, give my thoughts on the Avalanche ecosystem, and talk about a few things that I got wrong, right, and some mistakes. Because it's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay to stay wrong. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below. So let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, my health factor is very low, and this is pretty dangerous. But I'm really experienced with money markets, and I know how to manage these things. So if the markets look weak, really quickly I'll pay back through some of my loans, and I'll be okay, right? So if you have a full-time job or something, don't do this, obviously. But not so humble health factor, but I'm taking a risk because the market's hot, and I think this is a relatively safe health factor given my current life circumstance. I can easily pay back my loans if the markets look weak and the markets look bullish. So just trying to leverage my assets and make more gains, right? I'm sure people think I'm stupid. Sure, I can definitely get behind that, but it's what I'm doing. And if anyone realized what changed here, is that I used to have Chainlink as part of my assets as collateral, but I sold my Chainlink for AVAX yesterday because AVAX, or I guess the entire market was dipping. AVAX was a little over $40, and I'm like, wow, this is a really nice step to buy. But I didn't really have any dollars that were liquid to buy AVAX with, so I was just self-reflecting on my portfolio, with myself, and I'm like, damn, do I think Chainlink or Avalanche will outperform in the next month or so? Probably Avalanche, right? Because if you look at the entire market, Jerome Powell said some bullish things, and the entire market is pumping, and people are aping, right? Obviously, channel favorites Luna and Avalanche outperforming the entire market. Love to see that. But like I mentioned, back in early August, in $15-16, I think Avalanche is. I'm pretty confident that it's gonna go into price discovery, go above $60, because I don't know what this bubble was, but Avalanche as an ecosystem is much more valuable. It is now than it was in early February. And given the Avalanche Rush ecosystems, given that more billions of dollars will flow into the ecosystem most likely, this should go up. Not saying that it's rational, right? I think the Avalanche ecosystem is entering a bubble, right? Whether we're in the second inning, fourth inning, sixth inning, I don't know. But generally, when billions of dollars flow into an ecosystem, there's a lot of money, and there are a limited amount of assets to buy. So some money will flow into Avalanche, some money will flow into the other Avalanche native coins, which I like to talk about because one of the things that I got wrong was that as part of my humble strategy, I said that probably the safest play if you want exposure to this, I guess, ecosystem rush, is to gain exposure on Avalanche, right, the AVAX token, and PNG, Pangolin. And my thesis was based off of a case study on Polygon where, when Matic went on that insane bubble, QuickSwap went on a similarly insane bubble. It went 7x'd. And don't get me wrong, Pangolin has done really, really well, right? It's 3 or 4x off of the lows. It was at $1, now it's roughly $3. However, this thesis that PNG would be a good buy was based on the assumption that PNG would be the #1 decentralized exchange on the Avalanche ecosystem. However, if you look at DeFi Llama in the Avalanche ecosystem, you see that Trader Joe has overtaken Pangolin in terms of the highest TVL. This is kind of disappointing from a Pangolin perspective because they were the first, and they had so much time to prepare for this. And for them to not innovate and to not, I guess, establish a moat over Trader Joe, pretty disappointing. But the market definitely likes Trader Joe over Pangolin, and I'd rather not fade it, right? So in terms of my holdings, I still do own a little bit of Pangolin, but it's no longer a big bag as it used to be, right? I made some money on it, but the market's telling me that PNG might not be the #1 exchange. And also SushiSwap is coming to Avalanche as well with a set $15 million allocation. I don't really think Sushi poses a threat to Trader Joe or Pangolin, just because if you look at the case study for the Polygon ecosystem, Sushi gained Matic rewards, but it was never able to overtake QuickSwap in terms of TVL, in terms of liquidity, in terms of fee revenue, swap revenue, all that. So Sushi is just going to bring on more TVL, but I don't think it poses a threat, right? However, you could assume that like there are now like 3 major exchanges, right? Trader Joe, Pangolin, and Sushi coming into the Avalanche ecosystem in the next couple of weeks. So when it comes to, I guess, gaining like beta exposure in that Avalanche ecosystem, right? Because like sure, Avalanche should go up, but if you want to take on more risk, then it might make sense for you to go out into the risk curve to buy these other native ecosystem tokens. And don't get me wrong, I think Joe and PNG will go up if Avalanche does well, right? Just because a rising tide lifts all boats. But if you look at Trader Joe and PNG, their fully diluted value is over $1 billion, right? Trader Joe is $1 billion and Pangolin is $1.5 billion. And I know, fully diluted valuation is a meme, right? Like in the short term, if there are more buyers than sellers, price go up, right? And Degens and apes make a lot of money. However, in terms of a risk-adjusted return basis, I don't want to be the one like buying these farm tokens because like PNG, Joe, like they're being farmed, right? I mean, like there's so much liquidity because so much TVL because people are farming these tokens, and there will come a day where people take profits, and maybe that's at $4 for Joe, $6 for Joe, maybe that's at $5 for PNG. But I'd rather not take on that risk, and I think there's a coin that I can own that still can take on that like upside while like not picking winners, right? Because sure, Joe seems to be the winner, but I don't want to be the one picking winners, right? Because I'm making some assumptions based off of what happened on Polygon, but who knows? Maybe Sushi ends up being the best because of whatever reason, like some whales deposit more liquidity, right? So if you want to bet on the TVL of Avalanche going up, I think a good way to bet on that is to bet on auto compounders. Now, in my channel, I've often talked about why auto compounders are not worth it for me, right? Because it's not really worth taking on additional smart contract risk. Because if you auto compound things yourself, you're still gonna like not underperform like these auto compounders. So there's this document, I'll link this in the description below, where I don't know who made this, right? Like I asked the community like who made this, but no one really responded. But essentially it shows a mathematical proof that shows that if you take into account the fees that auto compounders charge, if you just auto compound like twice a day, like you're gonna be like your performance will be on par as like something like auto compounding using something like Adamant Finance or Beefy Finance on Polygon. However, I think that's a little different in the Avalanche ecosystem, just because fees are a little higher, right? Whenever you swap, you're maybe spending 50 cents or $1 in fees. Whenever you claim rewards, you're spending 50 cents in fees. So I think, auto compounder is not worth it for me on Polygon, but on Avalanche, I can see the merits behind it because I don't want to be dealing with claiming rewards, selling half of it into the other asset, redepositing it, and then staking it. Obviously, like even if you use an auto compounder, like they're going to be taking on those fees, but I think it makes sense to outsource auto compounding to something like YieldYak, right? Because YieldYak is by far, I think, the winner in terms of auto compounding. And the thing I like about their tokenomics is that they have a total supply of 10,000, right? I believe the real circulating supply, is 9,200. Just because there are 800 tokens, I think they're like airdrops that aren't claimed, and who knows if people will claim them. But let's just be conservative and assume that circulating supply is 10,000. So I don't have to worry about being diluted, right? Like no one's really farming this, and it's right now the market cap is like $120 million, right? Assuming 10,000 in supply, and if the reason I like Yak is because I don't have to pick winners between Sushi, Joe, or Pangolin, right? I just have to bet that the TVL in the ecosystem is going to go up, right? Because whether Sushi wins, Trader Joe wins, or Pangolin wins, there's going to be like naturally demand for like the services by YieldYak because they will auto compound for you. And to be honest, the AI is pretty slick. There are other auto compounders like Penguin, I think, and Snowball, but I'd rather bet on the winner, and I think like YieldYak is by far the winner, right? And they also have like a DEX aggregator, right? If you want to swap AVAX to like whatever, like Yak, right? You can check prices and it'll show prices for you. I think there's going to be just a lot of attention and mind share on the Yak token, and I have exposure, right? And I do own more AVAX than I do Yak, right? Because like I just think AVAX is on a risk-adjusted return basis, like, is one of the better bets right now. But I think if Avalanche does well, Yak will do better. And the goal for me is to stack more AVAX, right? Because if you go back to my videos, I made a name for myself on YouTube because I just was farming a bunch of Matic back in April and May, right? It's like my plan to accumulate 10,000 Matic, and I did it, and obviously it went up. Because one thing that I do want to mention is a lot of people just think that, okay, like Avalanche is going to go on this bubble, maybe like over $100, and then I'm going to just sell all my farm tokens when I think it's near the top, and we'll be saying like hallelujah, and like we'll be like, we'll be retired by then. But I do want to highlight one thing, right? Because most of my analysis on Avalanche is based off of comparing things on Polygon, right? Because I saw Polygon coming because of liquidity mining incentives. So, let's deploy capital on Polygon and make money. I was exposed to QuickSwap back then too. And the one thing I did want to notice, I do want to point out, is that QuickSwap, right? It went from like $200, like $150 on April 20th to $1,400 on April 30th, right? So it went on this crazy run. It almost 10x'd in 10 days. And this peaked April 30th of 2021. Okay, just remember that date. When did Matic peak? When did the price of Matic peak? Was it April 30th, or was it later on? If you look at the price of the Matic token, it actually peaked May 18th, right? And on April 30th, the price was not even high. It was like 82 cents, right? So it like almost 3x'd it 3x'd after QuickSwap peaked. So you can interpret this to be, maybe the native tokens will do really, really well, and then people will take profits into AVAX because that's the safer bet, right? I mean, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. So maybe this is what's going to happen, right? So if people are buying these tokens, maybe it makes sense to take profits into Avalanche. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. I'm just looking at the data and thinking about what might happen into the price of AVAX, the price of these tokens, etc. So, like I said, the goal is to stack more AVAX, right? Yak is not a long-term hold for me. I don't even know if Avalanche is a long-term hold for me. My hypothesis is that there's gonna be more liquidity flowing into the ecosystem, and the price of these tokens will go up, right? So I'm not really farming right now because if my thesis is that these prices go up, then I don't want to be taking on impermanent loss. Because in most farms right now, you have to provide liquidity, which you're exposed to impermanent loss, and yeah, and also the fees are higher here, right? So you're gonna take on additional tax whenever you're swapping, whenever you're providing liquidity, staking, etc., claiming rewards, redepositing, all that, right? So I think that's why Yak is gonna be a pretty powerful tool for farmers around. You gotta adapt, right? On Polygon, I thought it made no sense to use an auto compounder, but maybe on Avalanche it makes sense, right? So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. And I guess I do want to mention this Sunday I'm gonna be doing a live stream with two other people, right? And I think it'll be a cool one. So one being, I already announced this, but the Crypto Messiah, right? I told him about Avalanche a couple weeks ago, and then he just turned into a degenerate. And as you can see, on August 24th, he was pretty euphoric at the top. He was, banana suit. He's definitely on the long tail of super degen, high risk type profile. And I totally agree with this thesis, right? I think it makes sense. However, I'm a little bit more conservative, and AVAX is my largest bag. And I'll also have Noah Seidman. I had him on an interview, I think back in June or something, but he's very, very humble. He talks about cash flow, and I think Messi. I think Messi is way too degen, and I think Noah is way too humble. I'm in between, right? I know when to be humble, and I know when to take on risk, right? I mean, look at my health factor, what the hell, right? So I think it'll be a good conversation. I think you'll get multiple perspectives on what should you do if you're just if you just want to go ham, what should you do if you just want to play it safe, and what should you do if you're coming from my perspective. I think it'll be a pretty unfiltered conversation where we'll discuss various strategies, various hypotheses, and what might happen to the AVAX ecosystem. Because sure, price of these tokens are up a lot, but I still contend that we're early, because Polygon, with their $100 million liquidity mining program, the Polygon ecosystem peaked at $12 billion, right? And Avalanche is like roughly, I think it's at 2 billion or 2.5 billion, right? This data doesn't really update that frequently, but I think it's like roughly 2.5 billion. So I do think that when Aave and Curve comes over, the TVL of the Avalanche ecosystem will go up. And there are different ways to play it, right? You can just farm AVAX with stable coins, or you can just buy exposure to AVAX. If you want more beta exposure, you just buy the other altcoins, or you can do what I'm doing, where you can use whatever assets as collateral, borrow dollars against it, and buy more AVAX. Just not financial advice, obviously, but depending on your risk tolerance, there are different things you can do. And hopefully the Sunday stream can, shed light on how people are thinking, right? Because I think Messi is going to be like full ape mode. Noah is going to be, I'm only going to deploy capital when Aave and Curve comes. To each their own. Hopefully you like the content. Let me know what you're doing, because I do think that Yak will underperform some of these tokens, right? Like Joe or PNG. But I think on a risk-adjusted return basis, Yak is a pretty safe bet. Because don't get me wrong, like I don't even know what that token, like the value accrual of Yak is. It's just that if more people come in, then they're gonna be buying like Yak. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and let's sack some AVAX, right? And let me know how you're playing the entire ecosystem. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and talk to you later.